Hi, Mark Sisson here. Primal Health Master Coach Christine Hassler left her successful job as a Hollywood agent at 25 to pursue a life she could be passionate about. But it did not come easily. After being inspired by her own unexpected challenges and experiences, she realized her journey was indeed her destination. In 2005, she wrote her first best-selling book and began her life's work as a coach, keynote speaker, author, retreat leader, and podcast host. Christine began coaching in 2004 and is known for catalyzing radical self-reflection while offering practical direction. Her third book, Expectation Hangover, is the guidebook for how to transform adversity into opportunity. Dedicated to inspiring people to make the changes that lead to fulfillment, she hosts a weekly podcast, Over It and On With It, where she life coaches people live on air. Christine also runs a business training program teaching entrepreneurs how to build a prosperous career according to their secret sauce. As a professional speaker, Christine leads seminars and workshops to audiences around the country at conferences and corporations. She's appeared as an expert on The Today Show, CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, E, and many others. She's also a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post and Cosmo. Christine grew up in Dallas, graduated cum laude from Northwestern University, and received her master's degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. She's active in volunteerism and loves living a healthy lifestyle. She currently resides in Los Angeles and loves spending time with her family and friends in Austin, Texas. And without further ado, Christine.
We gave you the short bio.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Well, people have a little more background.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to be here with you. This has been so fun to be part of the Primal Health Coach certification program.
Well, listen, it's our pleasure to have you as our master coach.
Yeah.
So I think I want to get right into what was it? What was the defining moment that led you to become a coach and to interact with people at this level?
Well, it was never something I planned on at all. It was losing everything in my 20s that I had thought was going to make me happy. The job, the relationship, health, money, all those things. And having just a lot of bathroom floor moments going, what am I doing? Why am I here? And eventually realizing that the common denominator in all of those situations that went wrong was me. Mm-hmm. So I could either be the victim and think that life was against me, or look at, okay, well, what was I learning and how did I create all those things? And if I could create all those negative things, perhaps I could create positive things as well. So I just got really passionate about personal growth and transformation, and found my own coaches and started to learn things I never learned, like how to deal with my emotions and how to change my thoughts, and also with my health, how to take charge of my body and make different choices. There was a lot I didn't know I didn't even know.
Right. And
as I started to reorient my life from this outside in, looking for something outside of me to make me happy, to inside out, it was like everything shifted. And I made a promise to the powers that be that if I figured my way through it, I'd somehow help other people. And I was a personal trainer at the time. I left my Hollywood job. I was personal training. And in personal training, you kind of are a little bit of a coach in a lot of ways, because usually people want to talk more than they want to work out. So we do a little bit of both. And I found this knack for coaching. And then when I wrote the first book, people would call me afterwards and say, I interviewed people for the book, and they'd say, I want a session with you. So it just kind of evolved naturally, and then I got certified, and then one thing led to another. But it was completely by accident, and it was the fact that I was my own best client. That's really what made me a coach.
Interesting, because I think that we're going to get to that later on, but that's sort of one of the essences of the Primal Health Coach program, is understanding that the client is their own best coach at some level.
Yep.
So at what point did you make the move? Did you make the phone call? Did you try to find a coach and realizing that you needed assistance with this?
Yes, I had a coach of my own. I did things like landmark education. I was a personal growth book junkie. And what I think that the shift for me was, before my first book came out, I was on a radio program, and I was just sharing vulnerably about my story. And for most of my life, I thought I had to have it all together. And from the outside, seemed like I had it all together. Mm-hmm. And when I shared vulnerably about what I was struggling with and what I was learning and how I thought I failed and gave up this career and got my heart broken and all these things, that radio interview aired, and I started getting emails from people wanting me to coach them. And I was like, wow, to be a great coach, you don't have to have it all figured out. But you have to be willing to look at yourself, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to be transparent and have a story and be relatable to people. And I think that was really a big turning point for me. Not that I wanted to stay in my misery, but that I wanted to share about what I was going through very authentically and share about what I was learning. Because what I saw is that with a coach, if you're unrelatable and people have you way up here and like all the answers, then people can't connect to you. And I realized that my job as a coach was to be my own best client and then to help people find their own answers inside, not just tell them what to do.
I think that's an important point to realize that coaches don't necessarily have the answers.
Right.
They know the right questions to ask.
Exactly.
In most cases.
Exactly.
Another thing that you brought up, which I think hits home, is one of those things that they say at USM, University of Santa Monica, is we teach what we want to learn.
Yep.
And with that in mind, and as it relates to the Primal Health Coach program, people who, because I think some people say, well, I want to be a health coach, but I'm not ready yet because I'm not there.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to that point, whether it's physically or whether it's in my health journey. I don't feel confident that I can be working with another client when I still have 20 pounds to lose, or I'm still suffering from these issues. What do you say to something like that?
Well, I say it's more about changing the way you see yourself than it is about changing the external thing, right? Because that self-doubt that we have, we all have self-doubt, but it's what we do with that self-doubt that I think determines how effective we are and how successful we are. But as a coach, our job is not to be perfect. Our job is not to be like, I have it all figured out, you just copy me. Our job is to help our client really understand what's going to work for them. And it took me a long time. I was a coach for a while when I had a lot of knowledge, had a lot of awareness, and that was great. I could work with people. I knew what questions to ask. But for me, it hadn't quite integrated yet. I can now say after 12 years of being a coach that a lot of this stuff is integrated. I really do walk the talk a lot. And I don't have the same kind of issues that I had when I first started coaching because I've been working on myself consistently. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out, be perfect to be able to support someone, because it really isn't about you anyway, it's about them. Now, at the same time, I don't think we can be completely out of integrity. I think that whatever we're advising our clients to do, the questions we're asking our clients, we need to ask ourselves as well. And be in integrity so that we can walk the talk as much as possible, but there's no perfection.
Right. So, you describe having lost the job, having lost the boyfriend, now you're clearly unique in that regard because no one else has ever had that series of events happen at the same time, right?
Right. No one else has ever lost a job or gotten broken up with or had money struggles or health issues.
Point being, who needs a coach?
Yeah.
And the answer might be nice if everyone had a coach.
I agree. I think I always will have coaches. I have different coaches for different things. Mm-hmm. And what I love about having coaches is we all have our blind spots. And it's amazing when someone who's objective can illuminate those for us. Because we can't rely just on our personal relationships because they're personal. Right. People are going to have attachment. They're going to have their opinions. Our friends and family aren't always the best people to give us advice because it's coming from their point of view. So to have a neutral person that can illuminate your blind spots, hold you accountable, and also just have a safe space where you can just receive. Because yes, the coaching relationship is a back and forth, but it's a different back and forth dynamic. If I'm the coach, I'm holding a space for you when it's really just about you. Mm-hmm. And you get to talk about what you want to talk about. You get to be held accountable. You're in a judgment-free zone. And that's important for every human being to have, because I think when we get that from a coaching relationship, then we can go into other relationships feeling more fulfilled and more available, emotionally available, because we're getting our needs met by the coach. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we're here to grow. I think people that don't value growth get stagnant. Right. And get bored and just do the rinse and repeat lifestyle over and over. And
it's easy to do. We're creatures of habit. And even though it might be painful in the long run, it's like what we know, and that makes it comforting in the short run. But it's difficult sometimes to get out of that cycle, that rinse and repeat.
Oh, that comfort zone.
Yeah.
That, and I'm not the first person to say this, but, growth doesn't happen in our comfort zone. But I
Yeah.
think what humans fear so much, and I can totally relate to this, is uncertainty.
Yeah.
We do not like uncertainty.
Yeah.
We want these amazing lives and we want variety, but at the same time, we're afraid to take risks. We're hesitant to get out of our comfort zone. It's like, every Thursday we watch the same TV show and it just goes on and on. All of a sudden 5 years go by and you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
But for me, and I know probably for you too, like it's those uncomfortable moments, it's those leaps of faith that we take into uncertainty where the most growth happens.
Right.
And that's when coaching is so valuable too. I think especially with health, if you're trying, new ways of taking care of your body, if you're, incorporating a new fitness plan or food plan, there's some uncertainty in that. There's things that are going to come up. Your body's adjusting, your mind's adjusting, other people in your life may be adjusting to it. And to have a coach who's really holding the vision clear for you while you're in that uncertainty is really, really valuable.
Holding the vision clear. So, one of the things that we talk about in the Primal Health Coaching program is establishing that vision. What is that vision? Because a lot of people aren't willing to allow themselves to get to a point where the vision is so strong and so real, often the future as a goal, it seems unattainable. And they go, well, never mind, I'll give up on that. So I think a coach can be instrumental in working through that initial process, which was whether it's what is my goal in terms of health or fitness, what is my purpose in life. I think a lot of people, even if you think you have a goal for weight loss or for health or for fitting into a dress at a wedding or going to a reunion, maybe there's a step backwards you take and you basically say, what's my purpose here?
Yeah, and what am I really committed to? And I think another great thing about coaching is that, as a coach, I always help people have toward goals versus away from goals. And if we look at weight loss, most of it is away from. I want to get away from feeling overweight. I want to get away from hating the summer because I have to be in bikini. I want to get away from feeling fat or whatever, or out of shape or whatever it may be. And so it's like that constant negative motivation that's driving people to make changes. Where a coach can go, let's not talk about what you want to get away from. Let's talk about your vision, what you want to move toward.
Right.
Optimal health, feeling vital, not being out of breath when you walk up the stairs, being alive for your kids, and your grandkids and all of those things.
Of course.
And that kind of toward motivation is inspiring. And it's less about, I need to change something about me because I'm wrong or broken in some way, and more about, here's this vision that I have, and it's really exciting, and I'm going to allow myself to feel excited about it and feel inspired to be pulled toward it.
Right. So let's say I hire a coach and I want to take advantage of that experience, that knowledge, that wisdom, that guidance. What does that relationship look like in most cases? Is it a telephone only? Is it a in-person only? Is it a combination? Is it 3 times a week? What does it look like?
Well, I think it's up to the coach in terms of what they want it to look like. Some people really love the face-to-face, and so they work with people that live in their city and they see them, in a home or an office or even like a gym or center or something like that, which is absolutely doable and wonderful. But in our world where there's so many people all over the world that we're connected to, there's so much that can happen over the phone or over Skype. And so don't think you have to be in the same city with someone to coach them. I generally think when you're first starting out as a coach, working weekly with someone is great. Not necessarily just for the client, but for you as the coach. Because you're getting your momentum up, you're getting your experience, and you're getting your practice, and having that connection with your client once a week will just help your hone your coaching skills even more. Right. And especially, as a primal health coach, you're really looking at what they're eating, what their activity is. So having that weekly check-in, I think, is really important. As you move on and as your coaching platform grows or business goes, then it might be every other week or 3 times a month, that kind of check-in. Sessions are anywhere from 45 minutes to a bit over an hour. But for me, I'm the kind of coach, I block off an hour and a half for all my clients so that if we're really in the flow and things are going, I know I don't have to be like, oh, time's up, got to move on. It's not, I think a lot of people compare coaching to therapy and they model it after that. And it's not psychotherapy.
No.
You know, you get to create the model and the construct that you want. And I think it's important in coaching to really know, like, the session's complete when the session's complete. And sometimes I blocked off an hour and a half and we're done in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not the feeling like, oh, we've got, 20 minutes
fill
left.
the time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one of the first coaches I had, which was a once a week phone call. I didn't meet her for 2 years.
Yeah.
It started on the phone. She was highly recommended. Spoke with her every week. Didn't really matter that I didn't see her because the voice was enough, and she could dial in on exactly where I was and what I was thinking, and she was so intuitive in not ever telling me what I needed to think, but asking the questions and leading me into my ability to make the decisions that serve me the best.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears here for a second because
All
I'm
right.
curious. I'm
Okay.
curious. So when was this, and what motivated you to reach out for a coach?
So this is about 15 years ago was the first time, and I was having a tough time with my own presence in the world. I had expectations of myself that I wasn't meeting. I had a family. I had a business that I'd started. It wasn't going as well as I had hoped. I felt I'd created a lot of pressure for myself, a lot of stress that, as we know, stress really doesn't exist except,
Up here.
Up here. There is no stress in the world. There's just people thinking stressful thoughts. And so that was the first time I got a sense of, I'm guided to a place where it's okay to have those feelings, but then to realize that that's just what they are and that's not reality. I don't want to get too esoteric and airy-fairy here, but it was so helpful to me to have a third party that wasn't a family member, that wasn't my wife, that wasn't somebody who was closely connected to me, but was certainly attuned to what I wanted for myself and allowed me to kind of bring that out, and to the extent that, on a regular basis had a conversation with her, kept working at it, because that's the other thing about coaching is that a lot of times you don't fix it in 3 sessions. And so many people that I know who use coaches have used coaches for 20 years. It's like some of the top athletes in the world wouldn't think of not having a coach. That's what they do. So you're a top NBA ball player. You have a coach, and you actually listen to what that person does, and you take the advice and you use that. So,
well, I love what you're saying too, because I think, especially for men, I see this. They can justify performance coaching.
Yeah.
But when it comes to mental, emotional, it's like, oh, it's weak.
Yeah.
It's weak. Or even trying to have better health. Oh, I should be able to figure this out on my own. So what was the kind of turning point for you where you're like, you know what, I can't figure this out on my own, and I really need some assistance? Was it just that you weren't living up to your expectations and you couldn't?
Yeah, I was not in a good place. I was feeling sad, and slightly depressed at times, and stressed, and it was affecting my relationships. It was affecting my work, and I got to the point where that was, and my wife had been working with this person in other arenas, and I thought, she said, why don't you just have a chat with her and see what turns out. And it was great, and it was comforting, and it felt like I was moving forward. And so for the next 10 years, we had this sort of coaching mentor kind of relationship. And when you talk about, well, if you're a guy and you're okay with performance coaching, but if it comes to emotional or spiritual or stuff like that, it's different. Well, what I've noticed as a fitness and health coach is that when you really tap into a man's emotional part of that, that's when you start to get the forward progress. So men, just as much as women, sort of need that, the emotional connection to what's going on, and not just tell me what to do and I'll do it and I'll be done and I'll move on with the rest. And I've seen more guys break down and cry in a session that had to do with how they ate and their relationship with food, and how they felt about their bodies, and how they were afraid for the future because they had a family and they want to grow up and watch them flourish. All those people are very similar in all those regards. I mean, that's why we get to this point where we think it might be appropriate for everyone to have a health coach.
Yeah.
Now, I looked, oddly enough, today at the Los Angeles Times. I'm sure it's a headline throughout the country. 38% of adults are obese. 17% of children are obese.
It's heartbreaking.
And the medical community has done nothing, and they might claim to have tried, but it's been an abysmal failure. They've done nothing to reverse that trend. It's getting worse and worse. And so now we're at the point where what do we do to improve the health of everyone around us? And my suggestion is Primal Health Coach is the best way to do that. Is the best way because everyone's unique, everyone's individual, everyone has their own set of issues and baggage and whatever they bring to their own story. But it's incumbent upon them to use a third party, outside objective observer who has a vested interest in them to ask the right questions, to move them to a place where they're making choices that serve them well and will get them to their health goals.
And this kind of ties back to vision too, because if we think about that, 38% are obese, not just overweight, obese, okay? Because a lot of times, health coaches that are starting out, they're like, oh, there's so many other health coaches out there and I'm just starting out and I don't know this much. Stop making it about you and really make it about the vision and the mission. If that many people are obese, there are millions of people out there to help. Yeah. And if you get really called to that mission and like, wow, this is like a crisis. This is a health crisis. And I want to do whatever I can to help this. Yeah. And in going through this training program, they have the skills, they have the tools to create a dent in it. Because the only way that we're going to create a dent in it is when people like Primal Health Coaches get out there and start educating people to make different choices.
Right. And by the way, we're not talking about, usurping the power of your doctor or any of your health professionals. To be very clear, we're just talking about taking information that I've put together and my team has put together over the last 2 decades that creates a template for a lifestyle and again, simply making choices. We'll basically tell everyone from the beginning, there are no right or wrong answers here. You can live your life however you want to live your life. There are no black or white. There's no real good or bad. They're just choices. And what I think our mission here at Primal Health Coach is to allow people to be able to make choices based on the best information available, based on their own interpretation of what might happen as a result of their making those choices, to make those choices with sort of empowerment that, okay, I'm making this choice and I think it'll serve me well, but if it doesn't, so what? Not feel guilty about it. Yeah.
Right. So it's really about being a Primal Health Coach is not about going and fixing someone or saving someone or taking the place of their doctor. It's really about education and presenting them with the information they need to make the choices that are going to be optimal for them while creating a safe space for them not to feel guilty.
Exactly.
Not to feel like they have to hide anything and just to feel like really, really empowered. Because I think that when we have that kind of person in our life, when we have an ally, when we have someone that has information, has knowledge, but also has our best interests at heart and isn't judging us, then we're inspired to make better choices. So now that we're talking about vision and having a mission, I know that Primal Health Coaching has a very strong mission. Would you share that
Absolutely.
with us?
So our mission is to build a large network of Primal Health Coaches around the world who are actively engaged in helping the millions of people who struggle with health issues reclaim their vitality and enjoyment for life using the primal principles. That's the mission.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, it's pretty awesome. And I'll tell you, when I started Mark's Daily Apple 10 years ago, my mission was to affect the lives of 10 million people by helping them reclaim their health through education and understanding ways in which their bodies worked. I think I missed a zero on that because I think 10 million was too small a number. I think we've hit 10 million.
That's
and
incredible.
it probably should have been 100 million. So
that's incredible.
So one of the ways that we're getting to the 100 million is by leveraging this technology that we've created to train coaches to go out into the world and affect people's lives and hopefully build a business for themselves doing that in the process.
To basically take the education, take everything that you've spent you've just really been so passionate about learning and growing, empowering other people with that knowledge so that it's a ripple effect.
Exactly.
And so that more people can be helped.
And at first I thought, well, I would be able to do this using just physicians, and I could teach physicians to how to spend more time with their patients and educate them on certain dietary changes they might make that were painless in most regards, to allowing them to sleep better, showing them ways in which they could move that would improve their bone density and their muscle health and their strength and their mobility. And then I realized the physicians just don't have time for this. It's really got to come down to people who are just really interested in helping other people. Yeah. And most of the people who've gone through the Primal Blueprint Health certification that we had up until the coaching program, they were mostly just interested for themselves and their families. But enough people came through the course and said, this information is so phenomenal, it's so great, it's so like mind-bogglingly easy to incorporate and change my life. How can I build a business doing this for myself? And that's what really begat the health coaching program, where we decided, if we can teach people how to coach these principles and do so in a way that, again, we teach what we want to learn, so you don't have to be an expert starting out of the gate. You don't have to have a PhD or anything, an MD. A lot of RNs, LPNs, a lot of physician's assistants, a lot of personal trainers have gone through the program. A lot of moms have gone through the program just because they want to work with their kids in this regard. And what we're seeing is that there's probably a level of training here that is so appropriate for people to work with other people who just need someone to listen to them and understand their goals and their aspirations, and then guide them in those principles along the way.
Yeah. Well, you've been, obviously, you know a lot about health. You also know a lot about business. Yeah. Right? So for people who are really looking to make this their business, I want to be a primal health coach, I want to build a business, what are some of the biggest business lessons you've learned along the way?
Well, that's very interesting because I was a personal trainer back in the 80s. And as a personal trainer...
When people still wear leg warmers?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Ankle just rolled up or cuffed up around the ankles. And, and they wore colored Reeboks, yellow Reeboks, aerobic shoes, and headbands. Everybody had a headband on. Yeah. But no, I made a lot of money as a personal trainer. But I didn't have the technology. I didn't have the information that I have now about diet. So I was a rep counter. So I would count repetitions, and I knew the weights, and I knew all the exercises. I had a degree in biology, and sort of I was, and based on my pedigree, I'd been a top triathlete, so I could command a higher dollar per hour fee for training people. But ultimately, like as you said in the beginning of this interview, people want to tell you their story while they're working out, and there's so much information in those stories. Yeah. That could be so much more useful in getting them to their goals than just doing 10 sets of lat pull downs, right? And it's that information that I realized that's really the sort of that if I could harness that information that they're willingly giving me. Well, I'm in a real position with my husband. He's just not listening to me, and my kids are, they're starting to hang out with the wrong crowd. And that's the sort of information that I was able to help them with, and then bring them back to we certainly, it's a total life that you have here. And while I wasn't trained in life coaching, I was trained enough in diet and the nutritional aspect, and sleep and stress management that I could put all those other pieces in and say, listen, if you just start to spend a little bit more time on yourself, taking care of yourself. And that'll allow you the space to listen to your husband and understand his needs. And that'll allow you the temperament to deal with your kids without yelling at them. And it all comes together beautifully. But it took me, in this case, being an interested third party to listen and to be able to give a little bit of feedback. Now, I see trainers all the time in the gym who they don't want to hear that stuff, right? They just want to count the reps and they just want to be done with it. Or they don't want to talk about nutrition. They say, well, you just have to exercise more. Just burn off more calories, and then you can eat what you want. So the Primal Health Coaching really is kind of centered around more of a total lifestyle, I think.
Yeah, a total lifestyle.
Did I answer your question? What was...
Well, it was good. You did, and then you went on a really helpful tangent.
Yeah.
But the question was too about people that maybe have never built a business.
Oh, the business thing, of course. So I realized about a few years into this that I was kind of at my limitation of what I could do as one person dealing one-on-one with other people. And that's when I started to think in terms of, well, is there a way I could leverage this? Is there a way I could maybe do evening classes and get 10 or 15 people to show up and listen to a little dissertation on how the human body works and how we take the foods that we eat and they get either stored as fat or burned off as for energy, and I started to talk to 15 or 20 people at a time. So that was one of the first opportunities I had to leverage myself and start to talk to larger groups of people. I parlayed that into the Primal Health seminars that we had for 4 years. We did seminars where we had anywhere from 100 to 300 people show up for an evening of a PDF, PowerPoint presentation on the 10 basic primal blueprint principles. So all along, I kept thinking, well, how can I reach more people? That's really what I was after. Not so much how can I make more money, but how can I reach more people?
So you really were a trendsetter and a thought leader back then in the colored Reebok days, and now health coaching it's really on the rise.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why is that? Why is it so much on the rise right now?
I think it's on the rise because of frustration. I think people are frustrated that they're not getting the results from their personal trainer. They're not getting the results from the traditional, and I'll name names, the Jenny Craigs, the Weight Watchers, the sort of portion control people. They're not getting the results from the Biggest Loser type formats where you go on a dramatic reduction in calories, but a dramatic increase in how many calories you try to burn. None of those things are sustainable. So people are so, and again, just citing the statistics we talked about earlier, 38% of adults and 70% of kids obese. People are just really, really frustrated with their lack of progress. And there's an openness to having a health coach. And now I also see that there are some physicians who are very receptive to working with a health coach. So the physician can say, I'll spend my 7 minutes with you, and then I'm going to hand you over to so-and-so, my nurse or my physician's assistant. They'll spend the hour with you. They'll go to your house and they'll clean out your pantry with you. They'll go shopping with you and show you how to shop. They'll go to a restaurant and show you how to order off the menu in a way that will serve you both in terms of gustatory pleasure in the short term, but not sabotage your attempts at getting healthy. And so I think there's definitely an openness to health coaching that there wasn't even 10 years ago.
And we've talked a little bit about why it works and why it's effective, but I think it's good to kind of highlight a few of the things. Well, just having the accountability, having someone there who's not judging you, having someone who has the knowledge, and especially with the Primal Health Coaching program, so much knowledge to really explain people to make different choices and really empower them. Anything else we miss that makes health coaching so effective and really does move the needle for people more than any of these things?
Those are the main things. And, you look at the pursuit of health somewhat like, I don't want to put these in the same basket, but so many people who are in recovery have issues that go beyond the drugs themselves. And in the case of the accountability, in the case of to have somebody you can call up and say, look, I'm just feeling like having a chocolate fudge sundae tonight, talk me down. And for me as a coach to say, all right, let's just take a breath. First thing, take your phone, let's walk out. You go outside, I'm on a phone, you're on a phone, you walk outside, you're going to walk for 20 minutes while we talk about this. Is the 2 minutes of intense gustatory pleasure worth the 4 hours of not being able to sleep because you had a high sugar treat, worth the guilt you're going to feel all day tomorrow? That's the kind of thing that a coach can. It only takes a couple of times doing that when the client goes, yeah, I get it. I can walk. Now I get it, but I couldn't extricate myself from the moment when here I was all alone in the house and I was depressed and there was some rocky road in the refrigerator. So a coach can be that those sorts of instances can serve the same kind of role as I don't want to put it this way, as like a sponsor, you know?
Yeah. And it helps break the pattern.
Yeah.
And I think in so many times when we want that rocky road ice cream, what we really want is connection.
Yeah.
We're lonely. We're feeling isolated. There's an emotional component like we've talked about. And so having that person that you can reach out to is going to be far more satisfying and fulfilling and in the long run healthy because you're getting that connection. Because you don't really want the ice cream. Right. You want to feel a certain way. Right. And health coaches can help tap into feeling connected and feeling empowered and all those kinds of things. Yeah. And at the same time, a health coach isn't a life coach and they're not a personal trainer either. So let's talk about the differences between those.
Good point. So you have spent a fair amount of time as a life coach.
Yes.
And yet there's a health component to what you do. Mm-hmm. What I'm suggesting is that I would take a lot of life coaches and say, maybe there's a health component that's missing, and you might want to be trained in that area to add to all of the other facets that you deal with. Yeah. I talk to a lot of business coaches because business coaching has become a huge industry. I mean, a huge industry. I know a number of people who make $500,000 a year or more as business coaches. But what's interesting is when I talk to them about, well, so your client, has this big deal coming up and they're traveling across the country and you're sort of coaching them maybe on how to deal with a transaction in a negotiation. But what about their sleep? What about their energy levels? What about, are they fit enough to be in the right frame of mind for this? So it kind of blows my mind how business coaches so often lack the health component that is so critical to a high performance CEO that they're coaching.
Yep.
And by the way, I know in the field that you coach other people in as well, this business development field, and this, you don't have to be a CEO to get to need business coaching or to derive a strong benefit from business coaching. But to be able, as myself as a health coach, to be able to provide that added layer of support, like let's make sure you're healthy enough to pass your company on to your heirs.
Right.
Let's make sure that you don't have a heart attack and your company doesn't have key man insurance. There are a lot of different areas in which I think that the coaching field needs to be broader. It needs to be holistic. Yeah. And so when you say, well, a primal health coach isn't a life coach, that's accurate because we're not teaching those emotional components, those sort of deeper spiritual components that you would get in some of the life coaching opportunities. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be important to layer on at some point. What can a life coach, what can a health coach say or not say? I mean, we can't involve ourselves in the medical aspect. Right. We can't really intervene between a client and a physician and a physician's instructions. We can take the information that we have on lifestyles, which are generally accepted among the ancestral community, how to sleep, sun exposure, how to shop appropriately for your family and yourself, how to eliminate certain types of foods that probably are causing you inflammatory issues. But we absolutely can't say throw the statins away. Don't tell your doctor I said this. Right. So there are some things where we have to be very clear that we're not in the medical field. We're in a coaching field. The same way a sports coach is they have a trainer that handles injuries. A sports coach doesn't handle injuries. And I think that needs to be kind of cleared at the beginning. And yet, there's a lot you can do with the information that we have.
There's a lot you can do. And I remember too, so before I was a life coach, I was a personal trainer, nutritionist, and I was doing more health coaching with people. And I'm so glad I have that as part of my arsenal. And I'm so glad I've gone through the Primal Health Coaching program because it's just given me even more information to really help people. Like, again, if the foundation isn't strong, it doesn't matter like what you go out and create in terms of your business and relationships. Like, you need to be sustainable in terms of your health and well-being. But I remember when I was not doing life coaching yet, just my knowledge about health, I could even, because a lot of times my clients didn't know what to ask their doctor, or were having physical symptoms that they weren't even going to the doctor about. So even being that advocate for, talk to your doctor about this. Go get your physical, like whatever it is, and being clear we're not the ones diagnosing, but we're helping people have human optimization and really living into their full potential and feeling really empowered, not just mentally, but physically as well.
That's great.
Let's talk about the course.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So give people the tour.
Well, the tour is that we have 13 modules that are deep education. We drill down into the key concepts that comprise the Primal Blueprint, the 8 key concepts, and the 5 action items that are originally detailed in the 21-day Total Body Transformation, but they also embody the 10 Primal Blueprint laws. And you might say, well, wait a minute, I've been on Mark's Daily Apple, I know pretty much about what you do, I've read your books, so I think I get it. The number of people who've gone through the original Primal Blueprint expert certification thinking, got this, and then all of a sudden go, wow, these guys go really, really deep. We go into not just what you do and why you do it, but how it works at the cellular level. So we want people to understand, and really, we use the term grok, to grok what it is, the importance of these opportunities and decisions and choices that we make, how everything exists on a spectrum of pretty good choices to not so good choices, and how you can learn how the body operates and how it works in order to make the best choices that serve you in the short term and in the long term. So in each of these modules, and it's a long course, it's 110,000 words of text, and there are videos in each of the modules. But at the end of each module, there's an exam, and you have to pass the exam to be able to move on to the next module. And by the time you get through the 13 modules and you've gotten your expert knowledge, that's when Christine comes along, and we start talking about, okay, now let's talk about the coaching component. How do you take the knowledge that you've just embodied, and how do you use it and make it a gift to others in a way that serves them and serves you, and perhaps can allow you to make a living doing this at something that you're passionate about. So the basic modules in the coaching program.
Yeah, the coaching program was so fun to co-create. We talk about everything from coaching skills, things like active listening, perception checking, to building your business, to what it takes to really be a coach and have it be sustainable. And also sales. A lot of times we have all the information. Learning is the easy part, not easy in terms of it's still comprehensive and there's a lot you need to learn, but that's sort of more the comfort zone part.
Sure.
But when you get out there and I'm sitting across from somebody and I have
they ask you a question that you've never heard before.
You've never heard, or you want to invite them into a coaching conversation, that's when it's like, oh, sweaty palms. So we really talk about sales and enrollment. And so you get practice, and you start to have a vocabulary around how to have those conversations with people. Because that's the biggest obstacle I've noticed with people, especially health coaches. They have the knowledge, but it's the business skills and the confidence to go out and enroll people.
Look, this is one of the reasons why so many trainers work at gyms, because they have the knowledge, they have the exercise phys background. They don't have the business skills to go out and get their own clientele. So they compromise their own potential by getting paid X amount of dollars per hour working in a gym versus having a client base that they built on their own, where they could charge exactly what the gym's charging, but not giving them as their take on that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think that this ability to certainly you need the knowledge. We understand you have to have the knowledge. But to be a successful coach, you have to be an enroller. You have to be able to have a conversation with someone and allow them to experience in a short interaction what they might be getting over, what they might be buying as a service from you, and do so in a way that doesn't sales beat them up with a sales pitch.
Right.
But as you talk about so often, turning objections into coachable moments, which works both ways.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I've seen I've already noticed is that this sort of confidence, this sort of real-time ability to respond, to listen and to respond in a way that serves the client, it serves you so beyond just this this job or this passion that you have. It serves you in life, in every area of life.
Absolutely. I mean, I took my car in this morning and used my active listening and perception checking skills and got a discount. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it's being present with people. And back to like our conversation about the vision. If you're too self-conscious and you make it too much about you, that's going to get in the way of those coachable moments and those opportunities to enroll.
Right.
But if you're really committed on, like, you're sitting across from somebody and you really feel like you can help them, having the confidence to put it out there and not being afraid of no's.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who's building her business, I got a lot of no's, but that was how I got to yeses as well.
Sure.
And that's how I got better at having those conversations.
You know, and a no can be beyond just a learning experience. A no can be have its own level of satisfaction if you think that you delivered some amount of benefit to another human being in that interaction.
Yep. And no can be a not now as well. And I think that's the other thing, is not to take a no personally, because sometimes people just aren't ready. Because investing in a health coach, not just financially, but emotionally, you have to be ready to be seen and be transparent. And a lot of people
aren't accountable.
And accountable.
Yeah.
And some people aren't ready for that. Mm-hmm. And so it's not taking those things personally, but by getting out there. And the other thing that I find so valuable about the Primal Health Coaching program is there's so much information out there about health and well-being. And that's something I see my clients experience a lot of overwhelm with. And this program just puts what you need to know in such a concise way, so you can kind of turn down the volume of all the noise out there and have a depth of expertise to really show up and help people feel less confused and feel less overwhelmed, which I think is a huge obstacle in health. There's so much information out there, people don't know what to do.
And the problem is, for a lot of people, the information is conflicting.
Exactly.
And I think what you do when you sign up for the Primal Health Coach program is you're acknowledging that, and typically this is someone who's already read the Primal Blueprint, has been on Mark's Daily Apple, has used some of the technology and has had the results, so that they get it. Because in the absence of that experience, am I going to be a low-fat person? Am I going to be a vegetarian person? Am I going to be and there are courses out there that teach the broad palette. Like, here are all the different ways in which nutrition, people eat, all the different eating styles, and why don't you go pick one? What we did was we said, we're gonna pick the one that we know the best, and we're going to really dive deeply into this and give you the level of knowledge and expertise and comfort and just the understanding, so that when you do have a discussion with someone, it just flows naturally. It comes out. You don't have to go, okay, what did Mark say about this on page 22?
Was that on? Yeah.
No, because you understand it and you own it. You own the material so deeply that you can get out of your head and be in that moment and be responding to a client in a way that, again, that serves you both and advances the plot.
Cool. Who is the Primal Health Coaching program right for?
So someone who would want to be a primal health coach, someone who's been interested in health or fitness their whole life and has sort of floundered about what career opportunities are there, someone who has been in the health industry and wants a greater depth of understanding of the nutrition and the diet and lifestyle components of what they're doing. So that could be a nurse, a nurse's assistant, physician's assistant, personal trainer. We've had dentists and orthodontists go through we've had dentists and orthodontists go through the program because they recognize that teeth are tremendously affected by diet and sleep and exercise and stress, because you can grind your teeth. I mean, all these things sort of manifest themselves in good teeth. So who knew? Well, we did, but right. It's right for people who are passionate about their own experience thus far, who have come from a position of having not been in good health, or having been depressed, or having had issues that they couldn't overcome, that they later were able to overcome through lifestyle changes, and want to pass it along, want to pay it forward, and do so in a way that's actually a potential career. I mean, my dream for the Primal Health Coaching program is to create thousands of new health advocates who are making not just a living, but a good living, positively affecting the lives of millions of other people.
Mm-hmm. And what about people that don't necessarily want a new career or a new business? Is this program right for them too?
We've had so many people go through the program who just want the information, maybe they just want to carry a card around that says, yeah, by the way, I'm also a Primal Health Coach. But they're so into the information, so enthralled by the results they've gotten thus far. They want to know more. They want to dig deeper. They want to. Without wanting to sound or brag too much about the information and technology we have here, there's a feeling you get when you become primal and you really understand this information. There's a feeling of fulfillment and contentment, but also excitement for the future. Like I know that I don't have to be at the effect of my family's genes or bad luck or any of these things that I thought were out of my control. There's an excitement. There's a confidence that I know how I can live every day and extract the greatest amount of enjoyment and pleasure and fulfillment and contentment possible, because I have these kind of secrets that I'd love to share with you if you're willing to hear. And if you don't, it's fine, because I'm pretty content sitting here with that confidence that my life is going to be awesome.
Yeah, well, and it is.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who is just a little on the fence? They're not sure. They think they want to invest in this, but time or money or I don't know. What would you say to that person?
I think, first of all, the greatest investment anyone can ever make is in themselves. Whether that's more education, whether that's starting up a business as opposed to working for someone else, whether that's investing in real estate, and even buying a business, whatever. The more that you can take the fruits of your hard-earned labor thus far and reinvest that in yourself, that's where the real gains are made over a lifetime. And where I see it most happening is with people, like, for instance, there are a lot of trade schools now. People spend 6 weeks and $10,000 to learn how to weld, and then they go make $150,000 a year welding. Hey, that's a nice living. And it didn't take that much time, and they were very focused on what they wanted to do. Well, coding is another example. There's these coding schools where you can learn how to write code and program new games and apps and things like that. That's a great little skill that you can pick up in a short period of time that'll serve you for the rest of your life. Well, we're offering at $1,795 a set of skills that will serve you for the rest of your life, whether you ever go into that business of coaching or not. Mm-hmm. This is still an education that will enhance your own experience of life because of the deep knowledge that you've gotten. Mm-hmm. And if you choose to make it a career and add it on to an existing career or embark on an entirely new career where you're going to be from day one, from this day forward, I'm going to be a primal health coach and I'm going to make a living doing this and I'm going to affect the lives of hundreds of people and I'm going to make a good living at it. It's the kind of thing that I think is appropriate for so many people.
Yeah, and you're right. The best investment we can make is on ourselves, because when we're feeling better, everything in our life shifts. So what, for you, pre-primal and post, what's been the biggest change in your life?
This is not some pre-planned segue, but the biggest changes in my life have been when I've invested heavily in myself. Mm-hmm. I did a TV show that I produced and directed and starred in in 2005, and I lost $1 million doing that. Mm-hmm. And it was the best investment I ever made because it got me to where I am today. It got me to the point where I learned enough about creating content that I started Mark's Daily Apple. That became a book. That became a publishing company. The information that I was amassing and the employees that I was pulling together became a team that created this technology that became the Primal Health Coach program. We used that same information to start a food company. All of this goes back to the times when I invested in myself, and it didn't always create an immediate return. In fact, that $1 million that I lost on the TV show, don't get me wrong, it hurt a lot. Yeah. but I would not go back and change one thing. It was always there for me to do, always there for me to try, and I did not want to be 85 years old going, God, I should have done that TV show when I had the chance.
I always like to say that regret is far more painful than risk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you can recover from risk, you can learn from it, but regret, you can't turn back time.
Exactly. And with this Primal Health Coach program, it's not a big risk. It's some time, and it's a little bit of money, and there's really no downside.
Yeah. Well, I want to acknowledge you, Mark, for walking the talk, for living with such integrity, for inspiring so many people to live the most optimal life they can, and for creating this incredible program so that more people can have this knowledge and change their life and then consequently change lives.
Thank you, Christine, and I want to acknowledge you for shifting lives, particularly among the younger generation. I've seen the work you've done over the last decade. It's amazing, and also to thank you for being a part of this amazing coaching program. Awesome. You're one of the best coaches I've ever met, and I'm so excited to have you as a part of our team.
Thank you.